All right, here we go. Open 20.2. So I'm diving forward for fuel, and I want to give some quick supplement and fueling ideas for Open 20.2. So there's a lot of videos out there about strategies, a lot of videos about technique and mobility and blah, blah, blah. But there's nothing out there about what to take, how to fuel your body, which is probably the most important thing you can do since that's what your body's using for energy. But I digress. So, Open 20.2, if you can't read this, it's cool. It's in the description. You can just read it, look at it, and you'll be done. I'm just going to breeze through this really quick, and then I'll explain it. So, first 30 seconds, I'll tell you what to take. If you care to know why, then you can listen for a few minutes. But first, upon wake up, caffeine, I would take about 100 to 200 milligrams of caffeine or so. If you're working out within 6 hours of waking up. If you're not, you don't need it yet. Beet complex, water, hydrate, use Pedialyte if you can't get a good minerals in or sodium, things like that. I would take aged garlic extract, 1,200 milligrams, and about 3 grams of taurine. 2 hours before the workout, take approximately 1 gram of nitrates. You can get this through beet juice, which you just drink. There is something called Beet It shots, which are condensed nitrates, which is a little easier to drink. And then, of course, there is beet root powder. It's a little bit harder to measure, because usually they don't give you the nitrate equivalent, but you can also use that. Then about 30 to 60 minutes before you work out, take 2 scoops of Pulse. This is Legion's brand pre-workout. Best pre-workout I've ever seen. It has a host of different things in there that I won't get into, but we need all of it: beta-alanine, citrulline, a whole bunch of different things. We'll add sugar to that. Put in as much as you can handle, honestly, as much as your GI system can handle, as much as you feel okay with. We want some circulating glucose for the workout. It's a long-ass workout, so the more the better. Add a little bit more beta-alanine. I would add about 1 gram to that if you can. 200 milligrams of N-acetylcysteine, 1 gram of Agamatine, 500 milligrams of arjuna water extract, and that's it. Immediately before the workout, if you usually experience cramping for reasons that you don't understand, you just cramp all the fucking time, you can get around that with something called a hot shot. And again, the link is in the description. So that's everything that I would take. Now I'll jump into why, and then you can kind of decide for your own. So first, let me preface this by saying 20.2 is a long workout. Double unders, toe to bar, and dumbbell thrusters are all in very low reps, which means these rounds are going to go very fast. And this is going to come down to pure, I'll say, endurance to keep it short. Okay, the strength is just not there. The skill is just not there. Muscle endurance, not an issue. So for guys who are looking, or women who are looking to get sanctional level, I would say, or above, this is purely energy system. For those who are just kind of doing it in their gyms, you guys may run into more of issues like with double unders or toes to the bar and things like that, where you have to maybe slow down the tempo a little bit if you trip up a couple times, or maybe your shoulders gas out, and that would be a muscle endurance limiter. But that's basically just because you're inefficient with double unders. So if you are fall into that boat and you know your shoulders are going to get jacked up, you can take sodium bicarbonate, which will help buffer the acidity that will build up in your muscle tissue. Because sodium bicarbonate tastes like fish wrapped up in old socks, I would not recommend drinking it like I used to. I used to immediately throw up. And you have to drink a lot of it. So actually, Lance Armstrong helped co-create a product that's called AMP, A-M-P, and it's a topical sodium bicarbonate. It's kind of like you're rubbing fish and socks on your body now, but it's better than drinking it. So if you have muscle endurance limiters for like your shoulders, for the double unders or something like that, that may be a supplement that I would add in. But for guys who are looking to be sanctional level or above, muscle endurance is not going to be an issue here at all. It's going to be endurance. And when I say endurance, I'm saying that in a very, very, very vague way. Specifically, it's going to be about either your respiratory limited or your O2 delivery limited through your cardiac system. So in other words, your endurance of this workout is most likely going to be limited by, one, your heart not being able to pump out all of the blood to the muscle tissues and the various muscle tissues fast enough for you to keep going, or your heart will be able to do that, but you're not going to be able to get oxidized blood to the muscle tissue because your respiratory system or your breathing is not effective enough. If you think about red blood cells, which carry oxygen and CO2, they're kind of like those little donuts that you see in the pool that people just kind of float down a lazy river in, right? If you picture that being a red blood cell, they can only carry one person, right? So your red blood cells can only either carry oxygen or CO2. You expel CO2 and you take in oxygen, right? The idea is that when you breathe in oxygen, all of those donuts, so to speak, are not going to have anybody on them, and they can all load up in oxygen and float to the muscle. That's ideal. The problem is if your breathing isn't good enough, and most CrossFitters do have a respiratory limiter and they don't realize it, you're not going to be able to expel enough CO2. And if you can't expel enough CO2, all those life rafts are still there, but they haven't gotten the CO2 off, which means when you breathe in, they can't actually take oxygen. So you may be able to get the blood to your muscle, but you may not have enough oxygen in the blood. So those are your two basic limiters when it comes to this workout, okay? What I'm trying to do from a supplemental point of view is try or attempt to make those limiters less. Okay, and the way that I'm doing that mainly is through dilation of your blood vessels to get much more blood in and out of your body. Okay, again, if you're respiratory limited, you do have to focus on your breathing. So make sure you're taking good inhales and good exhales. Okay, make sure they're actually purposeful. If you start to basically get spastic breathing like that, you're not going to get effective O2 in or O2 in or CO2 out, then you're in for trouble. But at the very least, if we have more life rafts, so to speak, and more volume of water pushing through, then we can try to limit those limiters. So, upon wake up, you take caffeine because if your central nervous system isn't ready to work out, immediately upon wake up, caffeine kind of kickstarts the system, so to speak. You need a B complex. Most people deficient in Bs. I won't get into really why, because that's really long, but I would definitely take a B complex. Make sure you drink enough water. If you feel like you don't get enough minerals, so if you crave salt or things like that, I would drink Pedialyte. It's been my savior every year of competing. This is where we start to create dilation. Taking 1,200 milligrams of aged garlic extract is going to start, you want to take this in the morning, by the way, when you wake up. This is going to help the dilation process, okay? 3 grams of taurine. This is actually a couple different things. This is mainly opening up or allowing the cells to open up and put minerals into them a little bit easier. So this actually, most people would take this to prevent lower back pumps or things like that, which is caused mainly because of dehydration or electrolyte mineral issue. If it's some other issue, it'll be solved by the Hot Shot supplement later on. 2 hours pre-workout. Again, this has to be 2 hours pre-workout. You want to take in your nitrates. Okay, this is going to be the biggest bang for the buck in terms of increasing those blood vessels to get more blood to flow in and out to the muscle tissue, back to the heart. There's actually one supplement I did not put here, which I will. I'll put a link to this because I'm not sure how to pronounce it, to be honest, but I think it's pycnogenol, something like that. Basically, this is a venotropic. So venotropics help the body return blood back to the heart. So once we get it to the muscle tissue, that's great. We need to recycle that blood. We need to get it back to the heart. This venotropic helps do that. So add that in again in the morning. Nitrates, 1 gram of nitrates. You want to take this 2 hours before. I would recommend probably using the powder. It's probably easier to take down. I have literally thrown up every fucking time I tried to drink the juice, and I've done this like for years, and every year I do the open, I think it's going to be different, and I still throw up. So, yeah, it's very hard to drink that shit. So, I would probably not use beet juice. Beat It shots are better. They're more condensed, easier to take down. Drink those 30 to 60 minutes before the workout. This is where you take the typical pre-workout. Use 2 scoops of Pulse. It's got a bunch of good stuff in there that's going to help us. Sugar, we're going to add that in for extra energy. I would probably put in as much sugar as you can, somewhere between 40 to 80 grams of sugar. Really, you can't take in too much other than what your stomach has issues digesting. So hopefully you've used dextrose or maltrodextrin before in your shakes and you kind of have an idea, but add some of that in there. Pulse has about 4.5 grams of beta alanine. You can crank that up to 6 for workouts that are pretty intense to be on the safe side, so I would add another gram. Then we have 200 milligrams of N-acetylcysteine. So this is also, well, this is going to be in combination with the 1 gram of Agamatine. So 200 milligrams of N-acetylcysteine, what this is going to do is basically slow down the process of nitric oxide, or the nitric oxide breakdown in the blood. So glutathione is produced, which slows down the nitric oxide process. We don't want that to happen. We want that dilation effect to stay there as long as possible. Okay, so taking N-acetylcysteine will help prevent the breakdown of the nitric oxide buildup, which is what we want. The 1 gram of Agamatine will kind of work synergistically with some of the things in Pulse, namely citrulline, which will help boost nitric oxide even more. So we're hitting this from all different angles. And then lastly, 500 milligrams of Arjuna water extract has some really good promising benefits in rodent studies. Hasn't been carried over to human trials yet. It's completely safe. It's just whether you're wasting your money or not. But from what I've seen with the research, it looks pretty damn promising, and it seems to help be very cardioprotective and helps be able to work at the same capacity even though your heart rate doesn't have to get as high. So it's going to work a little bit with us with everything else to basically not have our heart work as much to pump out all of this blood and get the oxygen to our muscle. Lastly, immediately before the workout, within like 5 to 10 minutes, if you have cramping issues, you can take a hot shot supplement. The hot shot supplement is basically prevents neurological cramping, which is a overstimulation of the muscle tissue or an overexcitability of the muscle tissue. And this is basically a neurological or brain issue with the connection to your muscle, where it's basically kind of contracting as much as possible, but never telling it to release, which can cause some sort of cramping. Probably not an issue in this workout, but I always put that up because sometimes people cramp in weird ways, and this will help prevent that. So, that's 20.2. Easy day.